and fall soccer season have just really worked to change the mentality for appreciating even in the ups and downs, and appreciating all the in-betweens, and not trying to get too high on the highs or low on the lows. And I'm not perfect. I'm like an emotional person, and I just get super excited about everything, even if it's just like a good touch one time. Like I get so excited for myself. So it's just always like a learning process. But I think ever since this beginning of the year, I have really like honed in on journaling. And for me, I used it as a chance to reflect back on like what preseason was going to be for me, whether good or bad. But what it's really taught me, and something that I've always struggled with, is staying present because of that like excitement for life and the excitement for stuff around me. But it's also just taught me like how to be excited, but also to like reflect in the moment and appreciate it in the moment.
Um, I think that mentality just, I think it probably leaked out even more like when we got to know you, in terms of like you're taking your senior year, then you're going to go pro, and then you decided to take your 5th year and or COVID year and stay and play another year of college before trying to go pro, and you came to do the internship with TKI. Can you just talk about that experience? And how your mentality that you had been refining came out during that internship, and how it kind of helped you even now at the next level, at the professional level, and how that is exemplified every single day in training.
Yeah, I think before when my first senior year, so my 4th year, after my 4th season, and I was kind of really set on going pro, I think there was a lot of like ignorance to what it really took and what it looked like, just based on my experience. I thought my hard work was gonna be enough, but I didn't even realize like hard work has to meet the level and the talent that is surrounded. And so when I walked into TKI for the first time in, what was that, December of 24, I was like, I'm not ready. I remember crying on the turf. I was like, I need help. And I think it was just such a moment where I was like, I had this plan and this idea of what it was going to look like, and it's not going to look like that at all anymore, as well as like navigating what it could potentially look like. And I think as I hit the internship in the summer of 25, it really opened my eyes to failure. I hadn't really had to experience what navigating failure looked like. It felt like I was always the best in whatever environment I ever was. I was always the one pushing the envelope. There was never anyone pushing from behind me. And so I think when I was there and I had to fail for the first time, I don't even think I really could. Like I tried to learn spread, like literally for the first like month and a half I was there. And it was like, just let go, let go. And I'm like, I'm trying, bro. I'm trying to let go. And I couldn't. And there was just a day, like, I think when we were at, I had a day with Tori, but I also had a day in front of like our convention that we were participating in. And I think it was because there were so many people that I was like, don't back down now. Your back's against the wall. And I spread for the first time. And I was like, afterwards, I forget who I even called, but I was like screaming in the phone. I was like, I did it. Like, and it was like just like growth from there. And I think it was that like, it's hard to fail, and at mindset it's hard. Like you have to be patient with yourself to get there, but there's such a freedom that opens up when you aren't afraid of like looking backwards or what could happen or all the failure. And I think that was my first like 4 weeks in a nutshell, and then like my next 5 weeks was such a like freedom. And I think since then I've just had this freedom of like, at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. Like it's so much more fun to just like try new things, have fun. Like this is just a sport at the end of the day that's like a vehicle to showcase who you are and what you do. It's not who you are and what you do. And I think like I had that almost like one epiphany moment that just like changed that trajectory that I still carry with me.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes hand in hand to what you and I were talking about the other day. And like this sticks with me. I have thought about this every single day since you and I spoke on the phone. And you said your ceiling is only high as you believe it can be. And that one singular sentence I've thought about every single day. Like, what do I believe about myself? But also the person in front of me, we can help and provide you all the pictures and all the tools that you want. But if you don't believe that you can emergency slide tackle outside the penalty area, then that's not going to happen for you. If you don't believe that you can do a spread 100 times wrong, if you do not believe that 101 will be your breakthrough, it won't be your breakthrough. And to me, that is the foundation of how we train at TKI. Is the foundation of every great goalkeeper, is just knowing that like your ceiling is just really only as high as you believe it can be. If you just want to stay stuck in your ways for who you are, you're not going to grow. Your ceiling is going to be lower. And I think that more than most goalkeepers that I've ever worked with, you harness and embody that and like really embrace it. And to me, that's like such a sign of like strength and resilience. It's not this like, I'm afraid to make mistakes. And so I'm going to go within and try to hide, because that's what I did with my career. It's like, nah, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to try and I'm going to explore and I'm going to find out some information. And I know that I can learn from, sure, a positive outcome, but I can also learn from getting a red card in one of my first games outside the penalty area. So
happens to the best of them.
It really does. Tori, I've bogarted all of the conversation and the questions, so I know you have some more.
All good. It's all good. I think that is what like makes you so special, Maddie, to kind of go off of what Joel is saying there. Like it's just a mindset that really sets you apart. And if I could take that, like Joel said, and give it to people, I think, gosh, they would experience so much freedom. And like you kept talking about like freedom, and I actually wrote that down because it just got me thinking, like when you can give yourself that freedom to fail, you can give yourself the freedom to put yourself out there and be exposed. It's just like it releases more and more freedom. But with that being said, what would you say are your key takeaways? It sounds like giving yourself freedom and like not being afraid to fail is definitely part of it. But what would you say if you had to categorize into like maybe 2 to 3 takeaways about going and making that transition from college to pro? What would they be?
Obviously, yeah, we touched on freedom already, but I think another one is the willingness to put yourself out there. And I think that kind of all ties into it, but I'm thinking more from like a culture standpoint. I think as a goalkeeper specifically, your job.
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori Corsaro. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more.
Welcome back to another episode of the Keeper Institute podcast. I added a little flair to that one, and if you're watching, you'll know for sure. We got another guest. We are just like getting the guest in, and to be honest with you, it's all of our favorite people. We love to have on really anyone because we're people, but we love to talk to our people. I guess that's why we choose to do life with them. But today we are joined by Tristin, aka Bonesy, aka Madame Bones. And if you know her, you know the nicknames just kind of roll on from there. But she's just one of those people. She's nicknameable.
So can you give us the evolution? Because I'm pretty sure it started as like T-Bone, right?
Yeah, it started as T-Bone one day in a session. I think it was either you or Cam was like, she's a T-bone steak. And then it was like bad to the bone. And then it was like Bones and then Bonesy and then Madame Bones and then Bonesy Boo. And it just has evolved from one into the other and everything in between. So
you're like in it when you get like 17 nicknames.
Yeah.
Precisely. Also, when you say you and Cam, is that Jill and Cam or was me and Cam?
I believe it was Jill and Cam. Yeah.
I thought so too. I was like, this has me written all over it, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't me.
No, but I've come to find, I feel like the more nicknames you get, it's like a nickname is like another rank. You've like unlocked another level.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Well, before we dive too deep, Bones, can you just go ahead and
wait? Are we gonna have to start calling you President Bones at some point? Because I feel like if the nicknames are rank, you're pretty much up there now.
Prime Minister Bones.
Prime Minister. I like it. I'm for it.
Okay.
Captain Bones. All right, for real now, for real. And I'm gonna refer to as Bones. I can't help it. Can you just give a little background about like where you're at right now, like what you're doing? That way the people know as I ask my next questions.
Yeah, so I'm currently the assistant coach and goalkeeper coach at the Tampa Bay Sun in the USL Super League, or the Gamebridge Super League now, as it's called. So, and absolutely love it.
Amazing. We got ourselves a pro coach on our hands, and we're excited to crack into some questions. So, with that being said, my first question is: you recently retired. It has not been that long since Bonesy was putting on the gloves and flying around. We want to kind of start out with what has that transition been like going from playing just a little bit ago to now you're coaching?
Yeah, it's been smoother than I thought, but has definitely come with like its ups and downs. I think that when I retired and stepped into this space, it was kind of sudden. I got an opportunity to coach at this level and had to have a conversation with myself about, where I was at playing wise and what I wanted to do career wise and what the best next step for me long term was going to be. And decided to step into the coaching space. And I've loved the fact that I made that decision. I think it was the best decision I could have made for myself and where I was at. I think that having retired so recently, it's really helped me in my coaching space because I feel like I can relate a little bit more to where my goalkeepers and where our players are right now. I'm like, I was just there. Like, I know, I kind of understand what's going through your mind and like what this current situation looks like and how I can help you navigate that space. And I think it helps them a little bit more as well because they're like, she was just here. Like, she's been in my shoes. Like, I think there's a level of trust there that I don't know that I would have had not just recently stepped out of the game, if that makes sense. Oh, Tor, I can't hear you.
First day on recording, I guess I was muted. Why was I muted? I don't even know why I muted myself.
I don't know.
But I think being able to relate is huge. Like being able to relate to your players on that level and like them understanding you and kind of being that player coach, I think is something that a lot of teams have and need. So I think that's a cool perspective that you bring, especially having retired so recently.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I definitely miss it. There are days that I'm out on the field and I'm putting sessions together and I'm like, wow, I would really love to be a part of this session. Like, I really want to jump in and like do this. But it's also really cool if like things arise in the session where like they're like, I really am struggling with the decision making in these moments. I'm like, okay, I see that. I absolutely have been there. Like, let's walk through it. And kind of seeing it from their perspective, them seeing it from my perspective. But it's still a situation that I'm recently like attuned with, if that makes sense. I've recently seen it. I've been in it. I can we walk through it a little differently, I think, because of that.
Yeah, there's like a certain level of relevance, right? Like we talk about it all the time, how the game changes. And as coaches, you have to adjust with the game changing, whether it be, when we were youth players, probably all three of us, no one was asking us to be playmakers with our feet or be like a pivot. They were like, you get the ball, you smash it. That's what people told me, right? But now, all three of us coaching, if we didn't learn more about in possession, it'd probably be really hard for us to coach the youth on what they should be doing to be more of a playmaker and an option for their team, supporting the attack. So I think it does bring such an incredible amount of relevance, okay, to your session and your planning. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Do you feel like playing so recently and like kind of being attuned to yourself as a coach or as a player has helped you in your session planning and preparing your goalkeepers for kind of the demands of being a pro?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I reflect a lot on like what resonated with me as a player in sessions I was in because I was able to be in quite a few environments and see what really worked for me, what worked for other goalkeepers that I was playing with as well, and like trying to find that balance. But I think that as I go through the session planning process, I'm like, what were the most, not just the most fun sessions that I had as a player, but the most impactful? and like what did those situations and environments look like, and how can I do my best to not only recreate that feeling for my goalkeepers, but also bring in elements that they need as well, and like places that they succeed and feel like accomplished or just like they're growing too. So like marrying the two has
Right,
been like my main focus. Yeah.
putting those pieces together. And, I know obviously we're talking about how you had gone from playing and how that's attributed to your coaching and whatnot, but you also coached a lot while you were still playing, whether it be at the youth level or whether it be goalkeepers individually. You've had experience coaching for a very long time now. Even when you were still in college, you were coaching. So what would you say are kind of some of the biggest differences you saw, or maybe like some of the similarities that you were able to carry on from coaching like, the younger levels, the high school levels, the senior levels to the actual pro levels?
Yeah, I think for me, like having the experience that I had at the youth level allowed me to really grow as a coach in like the little details, recognizing the nuances. Our position is so much about like the little details making the biggest difference. And so being at the youth level and like growing through that space, I got to pick up and really like hone in on what those little things are and how they impact the bigger picture. So now that I'm in the pro space, I have goalkeepers who are really good in big picture moments and sometimes just need like the fine tuning of the little details to make like the biggest difference in their game. And so had I not had the time at the youth level and like grown through that space, I don't know that I would be as detail oriented of a coach that I feel like I am at this moment.
Where do you feel like I feel like for me, like whenever I retired, I just became a watered down version of someone else as a coach, right? So if you were maybe giving some feedback to someone or some insider, your opinion about what's the best way to transition, how would you say like you want to take all the culminations of all your experiences, add it to who you are, but also continue to learn and research and study like the best methods? Because I think more than any other position on the field, ours has continued to evolve. And I think that the way that we coach has to continue to evolve as well.
Absolutely. I think that for me, like I've always tried to be somebody that approaches everything as a learning opportunity to try to build on where I'm currently at. And so I know that when I reflect on who I've worked with in the past, both as a coach and a player, I've taken bits and pieces that I feel like maybe I hadn't been exposed to prior, or something that I found really worked for me as a player, or I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And I'm trying to add it to my own tool belt a bit. But I think that, when I step into new environments like this, where maybe I don't know the goalkeepers that I have, I think that for me, I'm also learning from them, because I'm learning that each one of them have very different learning styles. They have very different feedback styles. And so I think us as coaches in our evolution, we have to evolve with the environment we're in too, just as much as the game. Because if I have 3 goalkeepers and I'm trying to give them all the same information in the same exact way, they're going to have very different responses and they may not resonate with it. And so I think for us in the position that we coach, like we have to be sometimes the most adaptable and the most like evolving, but still have those principles and like foundations of our own like coaching philosophy to fall back on that kind of frame everything else.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I think that like when you talk about coaching philosophy and like your framework and whatnot, aside from it evolving, right? Like obviously it has to evolve. Aside from that, do you think that your perspective, or like I guess even just your jump from the levels you were coaching at before to the pro level has like made your coaching philosophy change or adapt in any certain way?
Yeah, I think that stepping into this space, it's a lot more of the mental side than I had anticipated. So you coach the players on the field and we have our sessions, but I feel like at this level, again, you're kind of picking out the little things, but the general concepts are there already. So you're not trying to like necessarily take a goalkeeper that you have and make them into something new, right? You're not trying to get them to be something that they're not, or, you're not trying to build those foundational pieces anymore. It's like, how do you accentuate the strengths that they bring to the table and allow them to shine while you help them like grow in the other areas? And so for me, like, I thought stepping into the pro space was going to be a lot of on-field stuff. Like, that was going to be the meat and potatoes of this role, where I've found in the last 2 environments I've been in coaching wise at this level that it's so much more off the field, at least with the groups that I've had. And like, we focus a lot on the off the field stuff, the mental side, like them as human beings, and like, how does that translate onto the field as well? And so that's been a lot more of the role than I had initially anticipated, but I've found myself really loving like that side as well.
Which I think is pretty cool. And I could surmise that like when you do, because I can imagine that you'll at the least like start like you're doing camps and stuff again, or like come down to TKI and work with us again. Like, how do you think that philosophy that you've kind of like adapted will help you serve now back to the younger goalkeepers or the not pro level goalkeepers?
Yeah, I think just the ability to kind of read in a session, like, obviously the longer you work with a group, the more of an understanding you have with it. But sometimes I step into a session and I'm like, oh, she's a little off today. Like, I feel like I'm at a point with the group I have, I can kind of tell what it might be. So we can kind of check in and, you grant a little grace here and there, or you can find moments to just like touch base on something mid-session that maybe isn't even session focused, but it's just a little like pulse check. And I feel like at the youth level, sometimes, especially, we're introducing a lot of new concepts. And, the younger you get, the bigger those ideas sometimes get. They're having brand new ideas. They're put in brand new situations or, decision-making situations. And that can become so frustrating so fast sometimes, especially when you're not in the right environment. And so being able to recognize like frustration cues and like maybe those little moments where we can be like, hey, like, let's just have a little pulse check. Let's touch base. Let's shift gears if we need to. And like, recognizing that side of things and not just like the technical on the field. What are we seeing on a like execution level? Like the why behind it more so.
Yeah, I think it's good perspective to have, and it's gonna help like so much like everyone who you're coaching. And I already know how lucky everyone that gets to be coached by you is, because not only do you obviously think about like, okay, this is where I can help you with the fine details, or here's how I can help you with the big picture, but like you truly care. You truly care about them as people, and you want to develop that character side of them. And like that's what I'm hearing over and over again, even at the pro ranks. Like, you're like, okay, you can't be the best you can be on the field if you're not feeling like, seen and heard and accepted. So I know how lucky they are to have you, and I hope that they know how lucky they are to have you. Which kind of leads me into like a little bit of a question that I have next, which is like, what I want to start with the good, but I want you to say like, what's the good parts? What are the really rewarding, enriching parts about being a pro coach specifically? And then we're going to kind of go a little bit to like what's hard, because no matter what you do, where you are, there's always going to be a hard.
Yeah, I think the best part for me at this level is like, I recognize the space that they're in their careers, and both like as people and as athletes, like they have worked their entire lives to get here. A majority of them have like, this has been their dream since they have been little. And so being able to be in that space with them and like help them reach the potential that they've wanted to reach, and like see the things that they've wanted to do like come into fruition, is absolutely just an unmatched feeling. And then getting to find different ways and problem solve to find like challenges for them, and like keep things creative and keep things like, they're professionals. So like they are decently like well-rounded in most environments. So how do we like still bring the challenge in, and how do we still, in those moments where you're challenging them, allow them to find success and celebrate both the successes and the failures and like build on them? Like that is such a fun thing for me to do. And like, I think that outside of the soccer environment, I'm a decently creative person. And so to be able to like take every night and be like, okay, let's be creative. This is the thing we're going to face. This is the puzzle piece, and how do we solve it? And like finding the daily, pieces to solve those issues come weekend. And it's it's such a fun experience and like routine to have. I also love my players, like getting to know them and like just seeing them in the environment and seeing who they are and how they handle different things and like just experience their experiences is great. You see them make like a huge save or like finally put the pieces together on something they've really been like struggling with, and they're like finding consistency in it, and they're like, yes, like finally it's like everything is coming together, and to see like that moment for them is so rewarding. It's so great. But
I have a question, and just piggybacking off of that, it's just I think a lot of young people have aspirations to play at the highest level, whether that is in college or afterward. And I think there's a wild misconception about what it actually takes to get there and what coaches are looking for. And I know that you're probably one of the people that I would say is non-traditional in terms of what's important to you. And you're not looking for height. You're not looking for someone who's just hollering random stuff, to like increase their presence. So for me, like we have a lot of young listeners who have big goals for their life, who have big aspirations. What are the like 2 or 3 things? Maybe they are tech, or maybe they're not, that you're looking for, that you're like, yeah, I'm really curious about this person now.
I think for me, like a couple things that really stand out is like bravery. Like if I'm watching your game and you're being brave, whether you're successful in those moments or not, you're willing to go and you're willing to try. Like I love that. That makes me incredibly curious, because I think that's a space that is really difficult to teach at that point in your career. And like we're able to develop it, but if you naturally have the ability to just be brave and be willing to go and like try something, I love that. I think somebody who is also like, I think presence is big, but not necessarily in the vocal aspects. Like, do you come off as confident? Are you like in control of your space, or like yourself in a way, which I know sounds kind of different, but in your style of play, are you like confident? Are you feeling good? Do you look like you like feel confident in what you're doing, I guess, if that makes sense. And at the end of the day, off film, the third thing for me is character. Like, who are you as an individual? Like, if you're coming into the environment, what are you bringing to the environment in terms of attitude, energy, and effort? For me, those are three controllables every day. So what do those 3 look like? And is it something that's like a positive or negative for the environment that we currently have as a whole?
I love that. I just wrote that down. Attitude, effort, and energy. I think that that's probably massively undervalued in today's society. And I think that hard work doesn't qualify you, but is the easiest thing to disqualify you is your character. And I don't think people give enough attention to that. I think that that's also why you were able to play as long as you had been, because you were so resilient and you were so gritty and willing to do a lot of things and tasks that other people didn't really care to do, weren't interested in doing. And I think that that's one of the reasons why you succeeded and probably got as close to your ceiling as possible. How do you create and nurture that? Obviously, you need to pick the right people to fit within your environment and your standards. I don't really love the word culture, but I think standards is something that you can have. How do you go about picking the right people? Because, I think it's sometimes really difficult to see someone's character over watching their film or going to their tournament and watching them for, 50 minutes or whatever it might be. So 1, how do you select that? 2, how do you emphasize that on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the recruiting space, like the way that we can kind of check that is like we do have character references. Like we do communicate with your coaches. We do check on that. And that is a big question that I ask when I'm chatting with coaches is like, how are they as a human being? Like, what do they bring to the locker room? How are they in that space? But also, how are they in that space when things aren't going great? Because we've all been at points in our career where like we're not seeing results. We're just grinding. We call it like the winter phase. Like you are just like you're grinding, you're working, things are going to get better, but you're just kind of pushing for a while. You're doing the gritty stuff, but like, what does that look like for them? How do they respond in those spaces? The other thing I look at is like in game moments, even if you're in warm up, how are you interacting with your teammates? What does that look like? If something isn't going great, what's your response? What's your body language look like? Because I think for us as goalkeepers, like your body language, whether we realize it or not, projects quite a bit, whether it be confidence or, you know, not confidence. But I think that's big for me. And in our environment, something that I think stepping into the pro space, my first experience, I kind of struggled with, like, I had some standards that I wanted us to have as a group. I was struggling with one individual in our group with like maintaining those standards, and it was starting to bleed into the rest of the players within our goalkeeper environment. And for me, I felt like I had really tried everything that I had in my tool belt to like help manage that space. We set, you know, some goals as a group. We chatted collectively. I thought that we had done everything, but at that point I was like, okay, what other resources do I have to help the group? So I reached out to a sports psych that I knew, and I was like, this is what I'm struggling with, and I want to be better for our group. How can I help them? And she really helped me like see it more from a macro lens and how I can approach like the group as a whole to help the individual. So I always start the season with like a series of questions that helps me frame, and also them frame, what are our objectives like individually on the field, off the field. Like it's a little IDP, but a different approach. But like, what is most important to you as an individual for this season? What are some things that are out of your control that might come in between you accomplishing that goal or not? And then in those moments where you have uncontrollables, like how do you feel like you react to them or respond in those moments? Good, bad, and different. And then we look at it from a group view and we say, okay, you as an individual, what would you like? Give me like 2 to 3 objectives or goals you would like the group to have for the season. And then we go into like, what are some uncontrollables that might limit the group from reaching those goals? And what are some daily actions that are either going to give me 3 things that are going to help the group achieve those, and 3 things as an individual that are going to deter the group from reaching those. And then I take the information from the group side and I keep it all anonymous. But then we go through it as a group and we say, these are 9 objectives. If I have 3 goalkeepers, here are the 9 goals or objectives we have decided are like our focus. If they're similar, like we go through, we narrow them down so they're a little easier to like manage. But then we look at like, these are the things we feel like are going to help us get there. And these are the things that are going to like move us further away from them. But then as a coach, I then have the individual side as well. So now I know what's important to them as individuals. They're welcome to share those amongst each other if they want to, but they don't have to. But if I have someone in the group that's struggling standards wise, or is like someone who's a little negative when things aren't going great for them, I then have the framework to fall back on and say, hey, is this behavior helping the group or deterring the group? Or is this behavior helping you reach your goals or getting closer to what you said was important this season? Or is it pulling you further away? And so that has helped like us collectively set standards, set a bit of a framework and an idea of like what we want as a unit. Because I think at the end of the day, like we as a goalkeeper group are a little bit of a team within the team. And I think the cohesiveness of our group goes a long way. Like, I think we've all probably been a part of a goalkeeper group that hasn't been the most unified or like hasn't been the most like supportive of one another. But I think we hopefully have all been a part of a group that has been. And like the difference that can make for everybody in both the development as an individual, but the development as a team as well is huge. I think this year, like we have an interesting identity as a goalkeeper group because we established early on a bit of a routine pre-practice, and it developed into something way bigger than I thought it was ever going to be. But it has become like a stake in who we are. And like, it also helps us redefine our standards because it's like, we know that X, Y, and Z are not things we want to allow into the space, like attitude, energy, and effort. When those 3 things are like dipping or deterring or they're not great, like based on what we do pre-practice, there's like you have a letter tomorrow. Like, and it doesn't come from me. It comes from them. And so it's like them now having a framework to hold each other accountable to the standards that we want to see in the space that we've created. And I think the more ownness and like autonomy you can give them in that space, the better overall it's going to like come to fruition. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. Like the transparency piece of just being like, here's what we're looking for. And now I can kind of hold you accountable to that, but also it allows you a lot of freedom for you to be able to express however it is that's in alignment with what feels good and right for you. But it's all about, to me, it's all about addition. It's all about adding to the environment. It's all about bringing something that feels authentic to you to increase everyone's productivity, enjoyment, fulfillment, efficiency, and add to like very collaborative environment that everybody feels they have a role and responsibility, even if they're not, performing 90 minutes on a weekly basis.
Yes.
This is who I am. This is what I bring to the team. And that contribution is really important. And it allows everyone to have alignment. And I don't know, when I have a role and responsibility that I know is important outside of contributing as a starter, I feel like I want to embody that as much as possible and bring my best, because my contribution is important to maybe others, for others to shine. But
100%.
Tristin, thank you so much for your insight, your vulnerability to share, like maybe some of the harder parts of what you do, and also, your smile and your joy, because that's one of the best parts about you. And I think something that would radiate in any environment that you're in and be so valuable. So, your goalkeepers that you get to work with on a weekly basis are really lucky to have someone like you in their corner, and keep changing the game. And hopefully you guys continue to ball out. So go Tampa Bay Sun.
Go Sun.
Go Tampa Bay Sun, baby. I echo all those sentiments, JL.
Yeah. Do you have like a sun figure?
Denise likes this.
Sun ray.
Okay.
So I said she's going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. So there's sun rays.
Oh, okay. It looks like a turkey, but
We're working on it.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
I do see a turkey.
yeah.
But imagine like our other assistant goes underneath and there's like sun rays all around.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Keep working on it. I'll keep working.
Finding it.
Yeah, back to the drawing board.
But right now, our goalkeeper is the lizards. So go lizards.
Okay.
Within the sun. Yep. The lizard lair is holding strong.
We'll have to get into that another day.
We will have to get into that.
We'll unpack that.
Yep.
We'll unpack that another time. All right. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us on having this really cool conversation. We love having guests on to bring insight, who have been with the company before, but also who have their own ideas and how to interpret the position and the way it can be coached. So there is a very divergent sport where there's lots of answers and lots of different ways to come to an efficient way of interpreting it. So thanks for sharing your insight, and we'll catch you guys later.
Thank you, guys.
Catch you later.
Bye.